So, good afternoon, everybody. This is David Rutigliano. I'm on a Zoom conference call today with my good friend and colleague, Dr. Bill Petit. Hello, Doc.
Hey, Dave. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. So, in honor of Mental Health Month, plus based on the op-ed you wrote, a very timely op-ed, I must say that I spend my days either on conference calls with people in my trade association, then we move on to constituents, and then sometimes we do work for the town and everything. And even the parents that I bumped into in town, everybody's under so much stress, so much pressure. It really is unprecedented, the amount of mental anguish that's out there. So we were happy to put out the solicitation for questions. We got some good ones, and I was hoping I could take a minute and ask you them.
That'd be fine. Thank you.
So the first one is, the world has changed rapidly and humans are not built for isolation. What do you think some of the consequences of isolation could be on people's mental health?
Well, the consequences that we're seeing, some people are becoming depressed, people are becoming anxious, people are having difficulty doing their activities of daily living, they're having disrupted sleep pattern, etc. People who had those issues or were prone to those issues, they have worsened. Some people are more resilient than others, so some people have been able to cope with it. That's why you and I are talking about it, and that's why it's an important issue. When we were chatting before this even started, I actually didn't realize that we were going into mental health when I was thinking about this. The op-ed, for people who hadn't seen it, was just, I had read the article about the 49-year-old female emergency room physician from New York who was on the front lines taking care of very ill people, got COVID-19 herself, finally recovered, went back to work. They thought she came back too soon, so they gave her a little more time off, and she committed suicide. And it was, even though it was a woman I didn't know, it was, I really felt crushed in my soul. It was like, wow, this has affected her so much that she felt she had nowhere to turn. A person with a big education, with resources available to her, didn't know it. So if she's feeling it, boy, everybody else has to be feeling it. And then I read a piece that a pastor of a church that I belong to wrote, sort of along the same lines. And I thought, I need to get something out to my constituents and people, because this is a big issue.
Well, it was definitely a timely op-ed, and we certainly reposted it, and I thought it had some really good tips. One of which is take a break from the news. The news cycle is so full of fear, everybody makes everybody fearful of death, and it gives you sort of a hopeless feeling. I thought that was one of the better suggestions. And then I read the article about that young woman also, and it was really disheartening that somebody who is that close to the medical profession, maybe with a few more resources or people they know to get help, was incapable of doing it, or something went wrong in her psyche that didn't allow her to even reach out for help, which was disturbing. Because if it happened to somebody like that, could you imagine an average citizen or a lay person, how much despair that some of these people might be in? No,
exactly how I felt. That's why I said, just even as I talk about it now, it feels like sort of a crushing blow that could happen, that would have such a negative impact on someone that they would feel that was their only alternative.
Some of the bigger stressors. So I had a conversation with a social worker who deals with adolescents, and really the effect on our young people is unbelievable. I mean, just the stress and anxiety about going to school, not going to school, being isolated at home, which isn't really a natural thing for a young person. But I find that some of these kids think that this is a permanent situation, that people think, oh my God, this is never going to change. It seems like it's just going on and on and on and on. Do you anticipate going forward what the world might look like? Are we going to be stuck in this perpetual state of isolation or near isolation, or I think, is it hopeful to say to people that, this may end someday and we'll all get back out there and get back to normal?
No, I think things are going to improve with the obvious issues. We're working on multiple antiviral therapies, so to have a therapy would be helpful, and obviously a vaccine, which as we know is a very controversial subject this year. but people will at least be able to afford themselves some therapy if they get ill, and perhaps a preventive to prevent them from getting ill. But that may take another 6, 12, 18 months. So I think we'll get back to a new normal. May not be exactly what we had before. We don't know what the behavior of the virus will be in terms of mutation. If we do develop a vaccine, will you have immunity for 6 months, a year, 2 years? We don't know those answers yet. So we still may need to have some precautions, and not everybody will likely. Vaccines tend to be 80, 90% effective, so there'll always be some people who don't have a good immune response either to being exposed or to the vaccine. So yes, things are going to get better, but it's going to take time. And in the meantime, people need to take the precautions that are appropriate for their situation to keep themselves and their loved ones safe.
Right, not everybody's the same. I was reading through your tips and tricks to stay healthy, at least mentally healthy. And I thought one of the important ones was to connect with others, because, we're all so used to having a human interaction or seeing each other and talking face to face. And that's not always possible now, especially for our older people or people that are in a nursing home where really their family can't go in to see them. Do you think sort of like this technology we're using now is a good supplement, or is a phone call good enough? Did you have any tips or tricks for people to reconnect with others?
No, I think it is important. I think it works for some and not as well for others. To get personal, I have a 6-year-old, and obviously he's around, and he tolerates the two-dimensional aspects of Zoom or FaceTime for a couple minutes, and then he's bored beyond belief, and he doesn't want to do it anymore, because he wants to sit in your lap, he wants to play a game with you, he wants to touch you, he wants to be right there. But on the other end of the spectrum was just my dad's 86th birthday, and we had about 20 people from all over the country on the line, and he was very happy seeing people he hadn't seen in a number of months because they're far away, or that they weren't able to come for Easter and celebrations like that. So yeah, I think FaceTime, Skype, Zoom is important. I think phone calls. Some old school people may be happy writing notes to one another, and as you're well aware, a lot of our constituents interact on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and either use messaging resources there or put up posts about, hey, here's what I did today. I took a walk. Here's the flowers coming up in my yard. Here's a beautiful rainbow. So I think we need to use all those capabilities that we have at our hands.
Do you find that there's a certain amount of regularity people should be using this technology? Like, does your dad, take your 86-year-old dad, for example, is he better off? I shouldn't say better off, but is that a daily conversation you're having with him, even if it's only for a couple of minutes? Or do you find it's only a few times a week, you check in for an extended period of time? What do you think works best for him?
Well, actually, he lives with me, so he gets to put up with me face to face. But he does it. He's in local Rotary. He's been a Rotary for 50 plus years. Rotary meets every Monday at noon. He's on, I don't even know what they're using. I've been in the picture a few times. Probably Zoom, and they have 25 Rotarians. So he chats with all his fellow Rotarians by Zoom, sitting in front of his computer here once a week.
Well, that's good. I didn't know that about your dad. I know that you were conducting kindergarten classes in the morning, which I thought was pretty impressive. That they flashcards and your coloring books out, which is an excellent thing to do. All right, I'm going to ask you a few questions about how people could stay positive. What do you think we could do to stay positive, keep in a good state of mental health? What do you think are some of the best tips and tricks?
Well, I think we all need to be able to develop some form of what the psychologists and trainers and people call resilience. And the resilience, I think, happens when people, number one, get an appropriate amount of sleep. So you need to have some sort of schedule. Our circadian rhythms, our daily rhythms are typically set by the time we wake up. So people should try to get up at a similar time and get adequate sleep. People should get some exercise. Again, not that, I guess I'm personalizing it. That's just the way it is. Dad's 86. In the beginning, he wasn't doing much. He's unsteady and has a cane, but now he's doing 12 laps in the driveway. Gets out every day, takes his cane and does 12. So a little bit of exercise is critical. Trying to eat appropriately to maintain your health. is important. It's easy to overeat. It's easy to comfort eat, to get too many carbs, too many sugars, too many fatty foods. And then as you had suggested, Dave, contact with others. I think all those things contribute to our own resilience when we're caring for ourselves, our bodies, people who, their faith. Some people will turn to their faith. People can't meet at their usual churches or synagogues or mosques. So perhaps talking with their friends about that, reading scripture, or reading books that keep them in tune is probably also an important part for people that is helpful for us. So I think all of those.
I agree with that. I think there's some comfort. My wife has gotten us into watching the bishop on the YouTube channel, and there is some sort of comfort in sort of the routine, and the messaging is good. So we have actually found a comfort in online masses, and I know our St. Teresa's here in Trumbull does a daily mass, and it is good to check in with them once in a while. It's good just to have good news every now and again. Sometimes I find it, I don't know if you find it too, is one of the hardest part about this thing is it seems like it's a suffocating amount of bad news all the time. You're not running away from it, but it's one person having one problem after another. It seems like it's difficult to get away from it. I don't know if you found that in your professional life too.
Completely. And as we were talking offline before we started this, I use the example for people of the diagnosis of cancer. When I was practicing full time and someone's diagnosed with cancer, you could come in and say, "Oh my goodness, Mr. Smith, you have cancer. This is a terrible thing. You're going to die." That's one approach, sort of the negative, and the other approach is, boy, bad news. You have cancer. It's serious, but there's things we can do about it. Here's what we know about the cancer. Here's what we can treat it. We have chemo, we have radiation, we have surgery, or maybe it's watch and wait, depending on what it is, depending on your age and what the cancer is. So I think education is key. And as you said, I think the more you know about this, the more comfortable you're going to be. And at the risk of sounding very elementary, washing your hands, not touching your face, wearing a mask and wearing it correctly, cleaning off hard surfaces, being cautious, and being more cautious if you're over 60, if you have comorbidities of heart disease or neurologic disorders or other problems, or if you're on immunosuppressants. So taking care of yourself. Some people need to be way more cautious than others. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of approach.
I do think if we tell people those simple steps that they could take over and over again, it's sort of empowering. It lets them think that, there is something I can do. I am not completely powerless over this thing. If I wear my mask, I wash my hands, I sanitize my house, I practice social distancing, I'm reducing my risks. And with that, I've sort of taken the power back to myself, and it's sort of something in the positive that I can do. So I certainly agree with you that now, we all know that there's resources out there. Do you have any specific resources that are available that if people really feel severely depressed or they feel they're in mental anguish, that where they could reach out?
Well, at the severe end of the spectrum, there's a National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, and you can access that by calling 1-800-273-TALK, TALK, which is 8255, 1-800-273-TALK. We also, from a state point of view, have put up the so-called Talk It Out website. So you can go to www.talkitoutct.com. And when you go, there's the hotline there. So if you can remember Talk It Out.
talkitoutct.com.
You remember that, you get the phone number, because it's not an easy one to remember, 833-258-5011. The simple one to remember is 211. You can always call 211 or go to 211.
To these other resources.
CT.org. Yep.
Here's my question. If you call, if you go to talkitoutct.com or 211, can it be for any range of sort of mental anguish, even if you have a question about stress you're having, all the way up to the possibility that you're feeling hopeless and a little more doom and gloom? It's not just for one end of the spectrum or the other. Is it for everybody?
Great point, Dave. Yeah, no, it's the Talk It Out website has resources concerning childcare, education, if you have issues with food, with your income, with housing, with domestic violence, which is unfortunately on the upswings, family issues, substance abuse issues, as well as mental health, going from as simple as being anxious and not sleeping well to being suicidal. So there's a broad spectrum of topics and resources available at the talkitoutct.com website or via 211.
Well, Doc, I got to be honest. I miss seeing you in the hallway. I know our offices are close together. I miss everybody being together and sort of the fun times we have and the jokes we get to make in the background. I have found that even this small amount of talking and the caucuses and the leader meetings have really brought some peace, kind of, because you feel like you're involved and you're doing something. So I thought that was important. We're all having the same struggles with the kids and the schooling, and my teenage sons seem to be overwhelmed with what's going on, especially when it comes to school and everything. So I wanted to thank you for giving me a little bit of your time, and I think the information that we're putting out there is really going to help people.
I think it will, but I think just get out there, get some exercise, make sure you get enough sleep, and take care of yourself. You don't take care of you, you can't take care of your family or anybody else.
Well, thanks for spending a little time with me on Zoom. Good luck tomorrow morning. What's the kindergarten lesson in the morning?
We get 9 o'clock. Mrs. Hughes sends the lesson, so I'll know at 9 a.m. what's on store for the day.
That's good, though. See, I think that structure is good. This is the argument I have with my teenagers. You have to set a time to get up. There's a time for school, a time for not school. I have one son that all he wants to do is go shoot baskets, and he feels like all the schoolyards are closed, and it's stressful. It's super stressful.
Yeah, if I don't get William started at between 9 and 9:30, and he stretches out, it's trouble. So keep it just like I said, your own circadian rhythm. You got to get out of bed, even if you don't have a lot to do, but get out and set your body's rhythm. Your body functions much better when you're on a schedule than when you're all over the place.
Well, Doc, thanks. It was great to talk to you. Great to see your face, and hopefully we'll all be together soon.
Okay, Davey. Thanks for having me. Good luck. Yeah. Take care, man. Bye-bye.